welcome to the Diplomats. I'm Go Horns Go, along with Umble the Heat from the Nexus server. We are continuing another episode on diplomacy. This time, we're going to be talking about my round 2 game at the Boston Massacre. If you heard before, in round 1, I thought I was a little unlucky with an internet lost connection. Here, I think I was overly lucky. So it all sort of evened out for me in the end, and I can't complain. But before we go into the details, I thought I would make sure to say that we are sponsored by the fantastic diplomacybriefing.com. Umble, tell us about Diplomacy Briefing, and how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, and all of us, I think, are getting back to normal after playing. Let's see, this last Saturday, it started at 9:30, and I think I went till 12:30. So there's about 15 hours of not straight diplomacy, because this time I got an hour off, but lots and lots of diplomacy, very intense the whole time, but a lot of fun. So I'm doing good. Diplomacybriefing.com is a weekly email about the hobby. It goes into everything that happened the last week in the online or face-to-face. It tells what's coming up, any new tournaments. It's the way to stay connected. It's free. You can go and subscribe at diplomacybriefing.com. There's also a strategy article every week.
It's a fantastic resource. So jumping to this game, whereas in my first game, I played Germany. This game I got assigned to France. And one of the things that I want to talk about was, I had a very powerful, at least in my thought, a lot of really intelligent opponents. In fact, the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 9th place finishing or players who finished the tournament were playing in this game. So that was pretty good to get to see players at a high level for the most part. And the second thing about the game that I'm glad you mentioned earlier about you're just kind of recovering, 3 players on my board were all from Europe. The guy who played Italy was from Portugal. The guy who played Russia was from the Netherlands or Holland. And Conrad Woodring, who played Germany, I think he's American, but anyways, he lives in London. So I was tired as heck at this point, but I can't imagine how tired they were. That came to sort of be in my favor, I think, as they grinded through the night till 5 or 6 a.m. Their time. And I am totally unused to this draw thing and face-to-face. It's not as well thought out, I think, as online, where you have time to think about what you're doing and all the rest of it. But feelings, tired, frustrations all sort of come into play at the end of these things, all of which actually served to my advantage, even though I didn't really know what was going on.
Well, and that's one of the things, too, on why people enjoy face-to-face, because when you sit down, unlike online where you can think through a lot of things, go into sandbox mode, read some strategy articles, and kind of formulate a plan. Like when you sit down to do face-to-face or these virtual tournaments, like you are drawing on what you know. And you are, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like separating those that really know diplomacy or that are really good at persuading from those that may be good at developing a plan. Now, that's not anything against online, because I think one of the quickest ways to get really good at diplomacy is to play online. You don't get really great in these fast games tactically, I don't think. I mean, if you do a ton of them, sure. But when you have time to really think through moves and think through how you persuade, I think you're going to grow very quickly as a player. But when you sit down to do these 15-minute rounds, you are drawing on what you actually know. So that's one of the things that I think makes it enjoyable. And, of course, it's a big rush, right? Because you're always doing something.
You're always doing something. You're always you're always working. And, in fact, I think I got critiqued a little bit by everyone saying how eager I was to talk to everybody. And I was, because, I was excited. And I get to talk to people, which I never do except for these 2 virtual tournaments that I've been in. So drawing France, I got persuaded about how important it is to be a player in Belgium and Burgundy. So that's why I wanted to go to Burgundy. But my first conversation before I talked to Germany about that or England was with Italy, because in my game one, I went to 1911, 12, fighting Russia. I mean, pound for pound, the entire game. And that same guy, Andre, physician in Portugal, drew Italy.
Oh man, that's always fun.
And we never were enemies. It's really hard to hate me for the most part. I think in general. And so he reached out to me, and he's just like, can we please not go through this again, at least early? And I'm like, well, yeah. So neither of us moved to Piedmont. If you move to Piedmont, it's on, buddy. I don't care what happens to me. And he's like, fine. And so I needed to ensure that. Obviously, we saw in the other game that I played, if people listened, how that Italian move to Piedmont really messed up the FG there. So yeah.
So I have a question or two then. So first off, like personally, you do my default French opening. I personally like this. That I'm sure that there's plenty of times where that's not the wisest. Perhaps the English channel would be a good one, but I like making sure I get into Burgundy. The only question I have here is, did Germany think you were going to bounce?
No. I had a totally – actually, here's what happened. So I talked to Germany, who is Conrad Woodring, who's the former head of the North American Diplomacy Federation, and I knew that, and I knew he was a very experienced player because everyone talks – seemed like everybody else was just called by, their nickname or whatever, and he was just called Conrad. It's Conrad here. That's like never a good sign. This reminded me of being next to Eddie Brisson, right? So I know you've played Conrad before,
yeah.
But automatically it was a different sort of vibe than I got with Eddie, whereas Eddie really wanted to be a, mentor and all the rest. Conrad was really chill, really relaxed, and he didn't want to propose anything. At one point, he tells me in spring 1901, he goes, I'm not much of a tactician. I sort of just rely on other people to throw out ideas that I can critique. And I'm sitting here to myself going, come on, man. So you know what? I just threw out an idea. I said, look, I'd already talked to England at this point. England was not, again, pretty non-committal, just feeling everything out. Didn't necessarily want to jump one way or the other. And so said it wasn't moving to the channel, and I said I wasn't moving to the channel. And I said, fine. I said, well, what about this idea? I go, I believe I have to be in Burgundy, but I also believe in deception. Why don't I move into Burgundy? I go, you can go to Roer if you want to. And I said, I'll get into Belgium, and I'll move Fleet MAO up into the channel at the end of fall 1901. And you support me into Belgium.
Yeah.
And he goes, done.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I did this in the season 1 finals of Nexus, and I think it's a good play for Germany because you're making France commit. So to me, that makes sense. Now, the fleet move to Holland, I don't think that makes sense to me if he's going to go with you.
I was a tad worried about that. I tried to raise that issue with him. That's what he really wanted to do. So I wasn't sure what he was going to do. But things get a little better. Anyways, he ends up going to Munich. Going to Burgundy and bouncing.
Yeah.
As opposed to moving to Roer. And he told me afterwards, he goes, I thought it would look like I'd increased the deception, and I thought if I moved to Roer, you might get worried, and I didn't want to make you worried being in Roer about getting into Belgium.
Yeah, I get it, but I get that, and his thought process was, look, I'm going to go back to Munich anyway, so why have England why have England, pushing me to support him in? I'll let you guys bounce. I think, yeah, what Conrad did there is perfect. But the one thing to always think about in that situation, which I'm sure he had explored, is sometimes it's not bad to do Munich to Tyrolia if you're going back to Munich, because you can kind of maybe keep Italy from trying to do a quick dot grab, which we've seen somewhat consistently in the tournament. So I think sometimes that's a big thing. If you're not going to be going to Ruhr, maybe you do Tyrolia, but this isn't a bad thing either. And I think his thought process was, if I get to Ruhr, I'm going to be getting pressure from both of you guys. And rather than have to tell someone no, I'll let you guys bounce, and then I'll see what's next.
Yeah. So I make this move, and then I think I was really excited to see the Turkish move into Syria. I don't know if you see this.
Yeah.
Which I guess is that rare anti-Lepanto move that is very novel. And I think, didn't you say on another podcast that people who do novel things in tournaments tend to get wiped out pretty easily?
Well, yeah, it all depends. But a lot of times, you want to do some tactically strong things. I don't think it's really that big of a deal, because all it says really is Austria. I'm not going to be trying to contest anything. I'm not trying to get into the Balkans. It's kind of, to me, a little bit of it gives you some options that if you're good with Russia, you move Ankara to Khan and then you build that fleet, right? So that's usually, you're trying to give yourself options. And so Syria does. You can move to Armenia if you want, or you can keep it there and move Ankara to Khan and then build your fleet and push against Italy. So it's kind of giving you some options. So I don't think it's that bad at all. Because if diplomatically he was like, this isn't going to be happening, this may have given him some better options long term. I'm okay with it personally.
Yeah. Well, I just viewed this as, for sure, Italy's not coming my way. For sure, going to be messing with Turkey. I don't know what's going on with Russia. I knew Russia's a very good player, Klaus from Holland. I've played him online, I think 2 or 3 times before, one in a game with Conk. So I knew he was going to be good and be able to handle anything that got thrown at him. So if we go to the fall of 01, now I had some inside information here. England told me he was moving to Denmark.
Now that's interesting. Why did he not convoy to Denmark?
I don't know why. I was really almost counting on him doing that. He didn't tell me how he was going to go to Denmark.
Yeah.
He said he was moving to Denmark. And, Conrad is a very good player. I told Conrad, actually, because I'm trying to build trust. And, by this time, I just, he and I were talking well with each other. And I trusted him, but I didn't, obviously trust him fully. That developed over the period of a game. But I thought I'd leak him that bit of information because, look, if it was false, no harm, no foul. He takes Denmark. But if it's true, then it looks like I'm willing to help, which I was at that point. So England tells me what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Conrad's like, I can't believe he would do that. And he immediately secured Russian support into Denmark before this even happened.
So that's interesting to me, because I would love to know what Conrad was thinking with going to Holland, because the only times, at least I have done that, is when I had pretty much determined I'm going to move that fleet into Belgium, so then I can choose between England and France who gets into the channel right away. So I've done that, but I don't know what the purpose was to go to Holland in support, because the problem here, and England probably thought about it, he goes, he's already in Holland. I don't know exactly why England was so anti-German, maybe but the problem here is because he gets bounced, he can't really build that fleet to get out and get that out to Hegeland-like. So I don't completely – it'd be interesting to find out from Conrad why he did to Holland, what his plan there was, because I don't know why that's a better spot than Denmark in this particular setting.
Yeah, I actually was wondering. Yeah, I was curious about that myself. I thought, well, is there any idea for him to go to the North Sea and take Holland with the army and let Denmark go? I mean, I thought about a few things, but it was ultimately Conrad's decision, right? And I said, are you sure you want to support me into Belgium? And he's like, well, that's what we agreed to. And I said, yeah, I agree. That's what we agreed to. So I'd appreciate it if you want to do that. I don't think he's moving to Belgium. He's not. He tells me he's moving to Denmark, and I believe him. And Conrad said, oh, I'll help you. And I think he'd be crazy to bounce me. So he took it all very casually. That was one thing about was like, whenever I gave him bad news, he never like got at all stressed about it, you know?
Oh, yeah, and that's why he's so good. Like he won and wrote actually an article for the briefing. He wrote a Champions Corner for the CoronaCon, which was like the first it was the first attempt to do face-to-face online, which was basically just playing backstabber press in 15 minutes. That part was very difficult. Backstabber's not made for quick press. But he won that, and he wrote, in my opinion, one of the best Champions Corners that any champion has done. And he just really talked about the importance of being flexible, being calm, not overreacting to stuff. And even when me and him, like when I went to make my move into stab on him, it wasn't really a stab, but when I made my move on him, and I was getting position and all that, we didn't talk a ton because he was, really trying to stop me. But, he was like, hey, good move. This and that. And it was good. Me and him, I've always really respected him as a player. So that's that his demeanor there, that doesn't surprise me.
Just very chill. And now, as you can see on the other side of the board, it clearly looks like there's an AIR. They all sort of jump. I mean, I think Turkey didn't get his orders in on time, or either that, or he just thought the best move was to hold, since he couldn't have stopped Romania or Greece at all.
That doesn't make sense to me, because why do you not? It had to be he missed his orders, because you either do Ankara to the Black Sea or Ankara to Khan in this situation. You don't hang out,
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a missed order. I heard on the live stream that they thought it might be intentional. So I don't know. All right, so Italy asked me not to build Fleet Marseille, and I don't. I need an army anyways. I build in Brest. Conrad thinks an army's best, and then England obviously builds a fleet in London. We get to 02. There's not really much I can do at this point other than kind of do a little holding action at this point, because I know that England's going to make a move on the channel, so I just support it. And I
don't understand this. Like, why doesn't Austria bounce in Galicia? Why doesn't he support Serbia? Why is he doing that?
So I never talked to them about that. So
that's weird.
I don't know the answer to any of that. I tell Conrad I'm moving a supported move into Burgundy, and he's like, fine, no big deal. And I pointed out it makes me feel safe. And he's like, no problem. I mean, nothing really fazed this cat. He really gets, and he gets, of course, you see the Russian support now into Denmark to get that next build.
Yeah.
He moves to Ruhr, which he told me about, and I said I had no problems with. And we get into the fall here. In the fall, I moved Irish and MAO into Portugal, because my thinking at the time is, maybe I can try one of these Umbel convoys that it always talks about. I know I'm getting the build in Portugal, and I know I'll get Brest. Conrad had his radar up, moves to Munich, just sort of at the right time before Italy goes Bohemia and Tyrolia. I think that was obviously, he was just wise to that. I don't know how he got that information. I don't know if he was really tight with Russia, with Klaus. So I don't know if he got that information from Russia or not. And then, of course, here you see Russia gets Norway. So this is sort of not good. And meanwhile, Russia's just telling Germany and myself, whatever you need against England, I'm here to help. But on the other hand, it's like I just went through a whole other game that I explained about where Russia and England sort of cooperated and that FG was really put on the brakes. So I was wary of that, the entire time. So now I'm looking at pressure on Germany. England's looking hurt. I feel relatively safe. All my opponents in the South are moving towards Turkey.
Can you go back? Can you go back to the spring in 1902?
Yeah.
Okay. So I had a question on that spring 1902.
Oh, spring. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So if you knew that Conrad was going, so he wanted support because but I don't know. I think what you should have done in that moment is you should have abreast to the mid-Atlantic anyway, because you weren't real. I mean, he wasn't going to do, he wasn't going to be doing North Sea to the, English Channel with support from London. Like, he wasn't going to be leaving that open. So what was the reason of keeping Brest where it was at?
I probably didn't think about it I didn't think about it that quickly. I just thought he's got two potential fleets on England. I guess I probably should have thought about that a little bit more, because you're right, because Holland would have cut support.
Yeah. And the other thing too is the thing about moving to Burgundy,
that would have helped a lot more, because then I could have gotten to the North Atlantic.
it would probably bounce, because at this point, Germany's fighting England. Need to be in Burgundy and create that kind of tension at this point. I would have probably just bounced if you were worried, but Picardy would probably become maybe the better spot, because I think you can trust at this point. Germany's pretty committed. I think you're going to be fine. You probably want Picardy more, and I don't know. I'm kind of quibbling a little bit on that. I'm just wondering.
Well, you have to put yourself in my position, which is like, you got to expect me to be a little paranoid with Conrad, because I know he's good enough to do anything at any time.
But also, here's another thing though. Like, a person that's good enough to do something at any time is actually a really good player. It's really good. They're easy to read then, because they're not going to dot grab you for something stupid. So that's where, like, sometimes people they're paranoid because someone's better. They feel like someone's better than them or whatever. But actually, that can help you, because they're not going to make the stupid move. They're someone across the board is not going to bully them into making the dumb move. They're gonna do what is best. So, but I get it's not a big deal. I thought it'd be worth talking about.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so we go to I build the fleet. Conrad builds a fleet.
Yeah.
And at this point, you sort of see Austria shifting up towards, Silesia and Bohemia. And I have to make a sort of different move here. Well, there's two things going on, right? Which is now Italy calls me, right? They're tearing apart Turkey, and it's going quick. And I had made the decision to move south in some ways, because I knew Italy from the last game. But then Italy called me up and was like, "Hey, don't get worried at all. I'm moving to the Tyrrhenian Sea. Don't worry at all. I'm moving to the Tyrrhenian Sea." And I'm like, "Andre, we just dealt with this for 7 hours." I'm not like dumb. I can see what's happening to Turkey.
Well,
yeah.
But here's the thing though with that. There's two things. One, a lot of times when someone calls and tells you that, there is bigger strategic interest in mind than just, okay, I'm going to catch him off guard. And then also, you're looking at something like, he can't send two fleets your way. So it's doubtful that he's going to be hitting you. To me, what I think is probably, I don't know, maybe it's not a good thing. When I saw you make the move there, I'm like, well, you can always move to Western Mediterranean next year because he's not going to get anything off you. He's not going to get anything big. I might have been a little too soon. I don't know.
Might have been. The other thing going on was, look, it would have been in my advantage here for England to get committed north against Russia.
Yeah.
And me, Germany, England. England's like, look, there's an AIR going on.
Yeah.
We need to get organized a little bit. You guys are going to waste your time against me. So I wanted England to feel secure about.
Yeah, I get that. That's a smart decision. That's a smart long-term decision. Set yourself up to grab stuff when you need to. Yeah, I like that.
So that was sort of the thinking here, because we weren't sure where Russia was in all this. All right, we definitely knew about the AI, but Russia had helped Germany before. This time, I think Conrad was worried that Klaus would be looking to expand. Russia would be looking to expand through him. So he becomes a little more paranoid. So he wants to set it up to where, he gets Sweden. England can take back Norway. England obviously wants to hear that. And I want everybody moving that direction in the north anyway. So I don't want to, have a problem, but I don't want to move my fleet out of the Irish Sea. And so that's how we got to that sort of situation. Meanwhile, Italy calls me up after this move set, and he goes, Italy calls me up after this move set and was like, it's war. I mean, I have to go to war. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I go, I don't see why we have to go to war. But if you want to go to war, we can go to war. We try and arrange something, but it's clear that we're just going to fall into our old pattern of from game one of fighting each other.
But what did he tell you was the reason for going to the Tyrrhenian Sea?
That's the thing. He said he needed to do it to keep up appearances with Austria and Russia.
Okay. Well, the only thing is, it's possible that he was planning to try to get into Trieste, but I don't know. I think if you're going to do something, to me, this looks very scatterbrained, because he's not really set up to attack you or Austria, really. I don't understand this. I think he'd be better being patient than antagonizing you, because he's not really set up to do anything to Austria anyway. So he should have put it in the Ionian, and then he'd have some options to go to the Adriatic or something like that. I
appreciated that he told me, but on the other hand, I think that I could tell that he thought I really didn't like him, and that was totally not true, right? I really respected him. I just worked as hard as I could against him for a game, and I think he got frustrated with how hard I worked against him in that game. So, it's sort of like it was the history kind of come back towards us.
Mm.
Now, in 2004, I figure he's going to cover Tunis. So that's where I, make a stab for the Tyrrhenian Sea.
Yeah. Now, I'm surprised you didn't convoy there.
Oh, well, to North Africa?
Well, the thing is, if you're going to be snatching Liverpool from them, you probably want to stay in Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not terrible, I guess, but if you open up to Gascony, I don't know. It's not terrible. It's just a little bit. I would have thought you would want to keep Mid-Atlantic if you're going to dock grab that, or at the very least, being able to convoy right into Liverpool would have been super strong. Because now you just got a fleet there, and you've got to figure out how you can hold that line. I would have either convoyed. Honestly, to tell you what I would have done in this situation, because you see he attacks Austria, so he was telling you the truth. I would have convoyed that army right up into Liverpool, and I would have just moved back to Spain and just chilled there. Because the nice thing is you're ready to attack Italy when you need the opportunity, and you're focused on what you need to do. So I'm not. I think this was too soon because you're spreading yourself out. I think you could have probably set yourself up maybe. I don't know how really the game really like where you end center count wise, but I think you were probably cool either just waiting in Western Mediterranean or moving it back to Spain and trying to reset because he just wasn't going to be able to attack you at that point. So I think convoying to Liverpool would have maybe been tactically the better decision.
Yeah, I really thought about it. I mean, I moved the army in Spain to do that. I mean, it was in Portugal, but I moved it to have the option to go to Liverpool to convoy there because I know how hard it is to get out, especially. But I knew England was getting a build. I knew England was going to the North Sea. I told England I was going to Liverpool, right? That wasn't a stab. And frankly,
oh, really? You told him you were taking a center from him and he let you?
this was a negotiated thing by Conrad. Conrad's like, you're taking Liverpool, right? And I'm like, yeah, I want to take Liverpool. And he said, look, this was a good bit of advice. He goes, you just need to have a conversation with him. He said, we're working together and Liverpool's lost. And you got to realize that that's what I'm going to take. But I'm not going to take any more off you. And you know what? I had that conversation with England just like that. And he goes, fine. I don't, he didn't like it, but I think he realized there wasn't much he could do about it. Well, there was nothing he could do about it. I was taking it. I just said, I'm doing this and I'm not going further. You can see where I'm concentrated. And now we've got, at the time, AIR, but then it suddenly just becomes IR, wintergreen.
Well, Conrad may have, known the English player or what he was going to do. I don't know, but I know me. I would have been like, you know what? If you take that from me, I'm going to help Germany get everything. If you're going to dot me on this, that's just me personally. Like, I've shown you so much trust. If you're going to just dot grab me on this thing, I'm going to throw everything so that Germany can get the biggest. That's like I really really hate to be dot grabbed, and I really hate. I can appreciate a good stab, like you're convoying that army in. I can appreciate that, but they're like, oh hey, I'm just going to take this. Man, I would have been so mad.
I just told him, but you know what? I said that's how you're going to get German support into Norway.
Yeah. I would rather die than slowly trade off centers and be just like, because he's at 3 at least, he doesn't have to be a janissary. I would have probably supported Russia and I would have done a lot of things different. But that's me. I mean, there's some players just are not that. If you read the situation right, he's kind of just along for the ride. Apparently, that's how.
I thought he was a very nice guy. I mean, he seemed experienced. It was just, it was weird. I mean, he did just be like, okay, I agree, and so that's what happened. Meanwhile, I sort of like moving to the Tyrrhenian Sea here because I like getting that fleet forward. In retrospect, I'm wondering if I should have moved west or not. I don't know why I didn't. Oh, I think I was concerned that Tyrrhenian Sea would move to west, and then it would I wouldn't get a fleet up. So that's what happened there.
I don't understand Austria here. I mean, I don't get that.
Austria at this point, well, this becomes sort of very helpful for us, right? Because Austria at this point got totally left his backside open and stabbed, but he was making a play on Germany, which Germany was ready for. So we got the use of Austria now for the rest of the game, and working with Germany and myself and then England.
So he's the opposite of England. He's like, if someone stabs me.
Correct. So, we basically got to talk about disband and what to do.
I appreciate his tactic. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point, Austria is on board. Those are essentially our units. Yeah. Unfortunately, because of that, Italy gets 2 builds 2 fleets.
Yeah.
This is where I'm sort of most proud of myself in the game. I really
Okay.
looked at that move, right? And I'm like, I can take Tunis, but I can't keep it.
Right.
Can't go anywhere else. What's
Well,
he
you
get?
could keep it. You could keep it for a turn.
No, well, I couldn't keep it by the fall. It would fall in the
Oh well, no, yeah, yeah. You don't want him retreating to the Western Med.
right.
No, you don't want him.
So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really sort of thought about what he would do and why he would do it, and I figured he would make a play, obviously, for the Ionian and couldn't cover Naples, and so I got through to Naples. I was a little surprised by the Tunis hold, to be honest with you. But now I felt really good because I got that fleet through the barrier and was, you know, knew that it would be harder for them to defend. So, meanwhile, and it was Conrad who asked me to move to Munich. I wanted to move to Munich, but he offered it because he wanted to push through with the idea of pushing me through in the fall. And I said, sure. I'm not going to ever get out of that.
Right.
He asked me to move away from Belgium, and he said he'd move away from Holland. I said, fine. I did that. Now, England asked me to move out of Liverpool, which I agreed to. I moved to Wales, and he's really kind of upset about that, okay?
Yeah.
As you might expect, but, you know.
Did he say Irish Sea?
No.
Okay.
And
So
later,
you're like, well, hey, you just wanted it out. Yeah, that's
later
funny.
on, he goes, when I tell you to move out, I expect it to be Irish. And I was like, well, it wasn't clear. And the way I pitched it was, look, you were in the North Sea. You could have moved to the Channel. I mean, I wasn't sure what you were going to do. I said, and of course, he never really pointed out that the Irish Sea is right next to the Channel also.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I would be so upset if I was England. I let you have Liverpool. You do that. You're talking about, oh, I thought you might move to the English Channel. I would have been like furious. That's why I don't do that. That's why I don't do this Janissary stuff when you're still at 3 or 4. Like, just make somebody pay. But hey, good job.
So here's where it all goes awry. Okay, and this is where the game, you know, gets sort of way off track. At this moment, it's not looking bad for France and Germany, Italy and Russia. We're obviously all good. Austria is going to have to disband. We get to fall, and here's the thing. It ends up being a disaster, and the main reason it ends up being a disaster is Conrad and I were so busy trying to figure everything out that we didn't get our orders in.
Oh,
wow. And, you know, we only got some of them in. And if I could be of assistance, I can show you what we intended to do.
Okay.
Which I will switch the screen here. This is what it should have looked like had we actually got our orders in.
Okay. Now, I'm curious why you didn't convoy to Tuscany and you went to Piedmont instead.
I think that's a mistake. I should have done that. I just didn't even think of it at the time. I heard that afterwards, and I was like, totally right. So my ideal thing is just a little less than ideal, but I should have convoyed to Tuscany. But that was, you know, the idea was sort of to push through, take Venice. You know, I think everything would have been okay for where we were at that sort of moment in time. Instead, it wound up where it was, which put us way behind the 8 ball. The reason why as you are about to see, is Italy keeps Venice and gets the bill.
Oh wow. So so Russia? I'm sure that was planned. Russia was probably like, I got to make sure he gets a build to hold this line.
Yes, 100%. They knew that entirely.
Yeah.
And at this point, Naples is lost. Okay, I mean, I'm sitting there on the chat going, he's building an army. Okay, he's going to build an army. The fleet is going to get lost. I mean, maybe get to Apulia, which is okay for a while, but it's eventually going to go, sort of go away.
Okay, I'm not. Let me ask you this. I'm not. I don't know if that Fleet Marseille was the best thing. I think you want Fleet Brest so you can move it down into North Africa, right? I would think that's probably the direction you want to go, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I was just probably thinking of proximity, but it's not. I mean, you're right. It's only 2 moves to North Africa, so.
Because you have to get it to North Africa, like, and not get it bounced and everything going around. It's kind of a little bit tough. I would almost think you would want that. Maybe not. I mean, I think it's to your benefit to. I'd have to think it out some more, but I think you'd want Brest to Mid Atlantic, and then to either get it to North Africa or something, or at least so. But I guess you have one in the English Channel, so maybe your thought. I think you want to keep that there. So
yeah, no, I was going to keep that there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looked so promising, and I just didn't work out. But now I go to Tuscany.
Yeah.
That the convoy obviously would have helped. I let myself get dislodged from Naples, going to Apulia, and here's where I really needed to prioritize the Adriatic, but I wasn't thinking of that quite at the time, which is the difference between what I would call a slightly above average player, which is myself, and a superior player who's always thinking about the stalemate line and always thinking about, where to go. But all right, it is what it is. We take Venice, but Italy gets Naples back. And meanwhile, Russia and Italy have totally cooperated with each other.
Right.
Uh,
So let me stop you there and make a mention of something.
Sure.
So I'm guessing what Russia, Kleeser, is really probably upset about is the fact that England continued to work with you guys, right?
He's very upset about that, and he's also very upset that Germany or me really hasn't done more against England.
Okay. So so I talked with him a little bit, and I just asked him because I saw that you guys had played together, and I know him, and so I said, so what's your opinions of of France in that game? And he was like, well, he goes, he's a really jovial guy. The board loved him, and he got away with all kinds of stuff. And
well, that's
great. Yeah, and I'll say this, like, you can see, yes, some tactical stuff, but at the same time, like, you've got a real strength that a lot of guys that are super strong tactically don't have, which you are, you're a fun guy to play with, and you don't come across as a scorpion, right? You come across as, hey, I want to be your friend, and you do. And I think naturally, I think that's just a natural part of your personality. You do want to, I think you probably do have a little bit of a people pleaser a little bit, and so it easily comes across, and that I think helps you in this game.
So I'm a trial lawyer, and what they say about trials is that juries tend to vote for the lawyer they like the most. Mm-hmm. So, my whole career is based around likability.
Yeah.
And I try to play this game as a likable player, even if you don't like what I'm doing. I never get mad. I mean, I get sometimes disappointed, right? I can't deny in a massive game like the season 2 finals, but I'm not generally a control freak. I'm generally there to have a good time. I'm legitimately playing this game for fun. My life is so stressful as it is. that I can't get worked over a game or my results in any individual game. I just take them as life lessons.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that Klaus said that about me.
If you ever like get to the next level tactically, which is, I think some of that's just experience, but if you ever get to that point, man, you are going to be really, really good.
Well, my brain unfortunately has a limitation on mathematics, right? But I'm learning, and that's one of the reasons I do these podcasts. I learn through you and through mostly you and others about what to do. But by this time, look, Conrad told me he was going to dislodge me in Munich, and I said I'm totally fine with that. I built up a great relationship with him at this point. I mean, we were extremely friendly. I was getting on with England. Austria really liked me. And Russia and I had good relations. So I had good relationships with everybody. Now, right here in spring 1905, Klaus sort of, sees what's happening. It's like 5 or 6 a.m. And he's like, I'll take a draw right now.
Yeah. Right.
And Italy said, I'll take a draw right now. And Austria is out, and or is going to be. And England said, I'll take a draw right now. And Conrad just goes, there's no chance I'm taking a draw.
Now, I wonder why.
He just said, I played all day, and I don't want to be – I'm not here for fourth. And I was disappointed to hear that answer. But on the other hand, he's my ally, and so I'm not going to press him on it. I could have, but I wasn't in a unit position to make demands on him anyways. I mean, where I'm at. So
Right.
and so he got on the phone with me, and I go, he said, can we talk separately? And I said, sure. And I said, I'm not going to force you into a draw, so don't worry about it. I go, if you don't want to draw, you don't want to draw. And he just goes like this. He goes, here's my promise. If we give it a couple of years and I'm not making any progress, I'll give you all my centers. You will be board top if we draw, period.
Yeah, that's interesting because the question there is, I don't see a path forward for him right now, and you're already the board top. I don't know what his plan is. To grab some stuff from England, maybe? Because he's not going to get stuff from Russia. I don't think he's going to get much from Italy.
Well, we tried to convince Russia to turn on Italy. That didn't work.
No.
And so really his only strategy was to try and get things from Russia. And look at those pink armies. Like, that wasn't going to work either. But I committed to him that I would try. And it ends up, to my detriment, actually, if we watch. At this point, I sort of, look, I take Tyrrhenian Sea back. They get into the Adriatic. I should have bounced there. It's a critically bad move on my part, moving to the Ionian. That gave them all the leverage they needed to blow up the fleet in Apulia. Now,
yeah,
it's just sort of brutal, and it sort of plays itself out. Now, this is the situation I'm in. England's building an army, because he says he's going north of it, but we're never going to get any leverage. Klaus set up the line just the way he wants. Italy can't be moved in on. And I'm like, the only place this is going to progress is against me, right? I mean, this is now not going to go my way. But I'm still trying to be cool with everybody about it. Everything's fine. Then just a series of disastrous situations. We lose the Tyrrhenian Sea, lose Apulia. Life keeps going sort of crappily for me. They got to shift around up north. But then I move my army into the Ruhr to, quote, help Germany. But really, in case this plan goes south, I need the dot grab quick, right?
Right.
Off of his centers. I'm not at all certain that they want to have a draw at this point, okay? But at the end of this, right here, at the end of 06, everybody's on the phone. Everyone's on the phone, and Klaus is just like, okay, Germany, you realize you're not going to get any more dots? You realize that's it? And he goes, I do realize that's it. He goes, but I absolutely refuse to draw unless France is board leader. I put him in this position. I made him do this, and I feel like I owe it to him. And I even said at the time, I'm not making anyone make that decision for me. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. And I said the truth, which is it means nothing to me. I've had fun. I'll tie for first. And Conrad was like, no, I'm not going to let you do that to yourself. I'm telling you, you're going to be board top. That's the only way I accept a draw. I would just go.
So let me stop you there, because with my conversation with Cleaser, that was so super disappointing to him, because if he would have board topped, I think he would have got second.
I don't think he knew that at the time. This is another thing where I'm lucky. I think he just wasn't paying. I don't think he knew how the other boards were going. I think he just thought he was out of it no matter what.
See, and that's like he was exactly what happens to him happened to me. Now maybe not. I can't remember. He may have got a second. He would have maybe got third. Maybe he would have got third, because I think he got maybe second in his first round, and then anyway, I think he probably got. I think what happened, was he got second, and I'm guessing he gets second here.
Correct. He ties with Italy. So, he ends up being fifth in the tournament. Italy ends up being sixth.
He would have probably got, in that setting, he would have definitely got third and probably second. So, that was because he was in the same boat I was, where guys that it didn't matter for them at all, they just dot grabbed and they said, no, I have to do this, when it didn't make any difference for them at all. And so he was really disappointed by that, which I understand. I went through the same thing.
So it ends up being that we arranged that Italy will take Venice back, I'll keep Rome, and the game will draw. And it drew. And I just built because I had to build for the game, but it was over at this point.
Yeah.
So it was really my diplomacy. To be honest with you, I mean, the diplomatic part of this game and developing a good relationship with Conrad, a strong player who's obviously, despite what he told me in spring 1901, knows tactics. I think it would have been a different game for us and for him had we been able to take Venice as opposed to giving Italy that build. But these are the things that happen.
I wouldn't have been, I don't know, like, I think there's still some more game to play, at least, because Italy can definitely kick you back. And Russia's got position to maybe stab Italy at some point. I don't know. I'm not convinced that their end was there. I think they're
very tired. It's 6 of them. I think both of them didn't think they could win.
Right.
And it had been, I think we were like 15 minutes before. Remember, there was a forced closeout of the tournament. They were going to stop games between 11 and 12 Eastern time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, all I would have done at this point is never click adjudicate the turn ahead of time.
Yeah.
I would have slow played him. I don't think I could have board topped, to be honest. I honestly, not because of what happened, because of how we played, but I think the diplomacy angle, nobody really hated me, and they were tired, helped. And constant sort of insistence that I be board top.
Yeah.
And I was pressing it. I wasn't being aggressive about you have to let me win.
Yeah. Well, it got you to 9th. So, and that's I'm sure you're very, very happy with that.
I am very, very happy with that. Like, I am playing just for personal fun and improvement.
Yeah. See, that was the thing from the last tournament that when I came into this tournament, because I had 2 tournaments in a row where I left a few centers on the board, and it cost me from getting third, really. And I came into this tournament and I was like, you know what? I am not going to just be like, okay, I board topped. Okay, I'm okay. I'm going to push this thing and make sure I really can't do better. And ultimately got me 4th in the tournament. But for me, was like, I'm just not I'm not going to leave things on the board if it matters, And so in some ways that attitude, it didn't really hurt me, I suppose, in my second game. I just didn't approach it the right way in my second game, vocally. But yeah, no, this is a good game for you. I think tactically, definitely you could have.
There were things that we could have done. I mean, there was a certain mistake, and there were other things I could have done better. But I think the part that Klaus mentioned was just developing a relationship with somebody, and I think Conrad was the kind of person who he wants to do well for himself, but he also likes to do well for the hobby. And I frankly thought I benefited from his benevolence.
Yeah, no, I think he's a great person to play a game with. He is, he's not someone that is going to like dot grab you. He's generally playing well for the Alliance. And I think Conrad's a great player, and he doesn't scare people away. Like, nobody plays with Conrad and says, I'm never playing diplomacy again. So there's other players that are like, they play with them and they're so abusive to other players that they don't want to play the game again. But Conrad is not at all one of those people.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. Well, thanks for talking to me about this game, Humble. Thanks for diplomacybriefing.com to sponsor it. And we'll be back with more mini episodes on Boston Massacre 2020. Good night.
Good night.